done it, we had feared so much.
When you did what?
When we killed a baby, first time. And
You
we knew
killed the
about it.
babies?
Yes.
You yourself?
With Papa. Papa holded my hand. He helped me. But he told me to cut the baby's head off. But he forced me to. I couldn't.
He held your hands?
He held my hand. Yes.
Like what? Show me.
So this is my hand on the knife. He put his big hand on, and he pushed my hand and then cut off the head. Like that.
If you're looking for the outcast among outcasts, if you're looking for the pariah podcast, the YouTube show, you have found it tonight, folks. This is Through the Black. My name is Tom. Her name is Vicky Joy. And we want to take away the stigma of talking about satanic ritual abuse. When you mention this to Christians, they freeze up, they lock up. They become fearful when you say the word satanic. When you say Satan, they freak out. They become scared. We want to take away that stigma. We want to take away the stigma of talking about Satanism and satanic covens and witchcraft. Here we are. We're still here. Vicky Joy, say hi tonight.
Hey, kind of hard to start the show off with a smile after that clip. That clip never ceases to be disturbing, but just going on the tails of what you just said, Tom, it is extremely biblical to expose the deeds of the devil. We're not supposed to revel in what they do in the dark, but we are supposed to expose it.
Amen, sister. Amen. And as I'm watching the intro and thinking about everything, I just want to share something real quick. Romans 12:1. Therefore, I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. You know what? I kind of took that nonconformity thing over the edge. And if I did anything, wrong in that, I repent. But I just reject all of the fake social norms within the church that say we can't do this or we can't do that or we can't talk to Satanists or we can't expose Satanism, okay? Or we can't talk about conspiracy theories, okay? I embrace conspiracy theories because God's word is full of conspiracies, okay? Conspiracy theory has become a thing that they try to shame us with. I embrace it because all of the theories have come true. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom, we talk a lot about there's ambiguity sometimes in what we talk about. And I'm thinking especially like on our audiotopsy programs, we speculate a lot with Kenny and we say, okay, was this particular artist a Satanist or not? Well, we can't really prove it. And we want to be intellectually honest and we don't want to just be running around accusing every single person, with a piece of jewelry on or who's wearing dark clothes or who has a pentagram on their elbow. They're a Satanist, you're a Satanist. And sometimes we get flack because we're not just, giving that rubber stamp of Satanist on everybody we talk about. But this is one of those shows where I think we can speak pretty poignantly about who these people are because they proclaim it themselves. So for all of you who want to hear us call somebody a Satanist, you showed up on the right night.
Vicky, I'll never forget the night. It was a Saturday night that I first saw the Hampstead videos of Elisa and Gabriel. I remember I was up late at night just bouncing around on the interwebs and I came across this video and I was blown away by what I saw. I was teaching Sunday school the next morning and leading a prayer meeting, and I went in showing people, what I saw. And this precious couple that's still good friends of mine, they were just like, they couldn't believe it. It was so much for them to take in. And, instead of giving them a drink of water from a water fountain, I was just like giving it to them with a fire hose, right?
Fire hose.
And just like telling them, and I'm like, because I just took all this in with the case, everything I could, the night before. And I'm like, you're not going to believe this. And they said this, and they said this, and they said this. Well, folks, we're turning on the fire hose tonight. Okay. And within, sometime with, during this show, however long it lasts tonight, we're going to blast you with a lot of stuff. Let me just say this, viewer discretion is advised. There are going to be graphic sexual descriptions of abuse on this show tonight. We don't do it for exploitation. We do it because my good friend Russ Dizdar, who we lost a year ago this month, he said, if you put your head in the sand, you get your butt kicked. And if we stick our head in the sand, then we're not going to know what's going on. And the church has been guilty of this. We could talk about so many cases, but this case is unique. Vicky, it was 4 years ago this month that we launched the legendary campaign. 4 years ago and 3 days ago, basically, or a couple days ago, on the 1st of October, 2018, I believe, we launched the legendary campaign. And I remember I did a marathon that month where I did a show every day. And I had to go on vacation. I went out of town. My wife and I had something scheduled, but Jared covered for me during those days. But wherever I went, like I was doing a live show somewhere every day for the whole month of October 2018. And that's how we launched that legendary campaign. Now, the campaign has seen its ups and downs, but it's still here, okay? And we're still doing it. Anything we do through the black, when we're exposing, and I'm not going to name all the things, that is the legendary campaign, and we're continuing that on, hence the name Legendary, okay? So anyway, yeah, this week is the week. We have a few shows lined up, and one more thing I want to mention is we dropped a video today around 4 o'clock. It was called Satanic Ritual Abuse Uncovered. Folks, if you can take that video and share it just like wildfire, okay, just across this planet, take that and share it everywhere. That video is just a little 21-minute compilation of testimonies. Okay, some of them are from the movie Detestable. Some of them are from news organizations around the world, other people, other testimonies, other survivors. So if you haven't seen it, check it out, and then please share it. We want that to go everywhere. So anyway, Vic, I don't know where to start. We're going to be watching a lot of video tonight because this video testimony is foundational to this case. If somebody wouldn't have leaked these videos, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. Okay? We would barely know about this case. These testimonies, now for years, Vic, we have heard secondhand about satanic ritual abuse. We have heard counselors, ministers, what have you, psychotherapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, tell the story secondhand. And they said, and this is what they do, we believe the kids. If you saw those kids, if you saw their testimony, if you heard what they say, okay, we heard it secondhand. But for the first time, one of the first times, okay, in a very impactful way, we hear it firsthand from children, not something that happened 20 years ago, something that just happened recently in the months and years before this video was filmed. Okay. Now, when it comes to the Hampstead case, there are several different testimonies. Okay. There is the airport videos, which was what you saw at the beginning there. Then there are the police interviews. Okay. And then there is the brother-in-law interviews. Okay. The police officer, I forget where he's from, but there's an interview. It's an audio interview out there. Okay. Then there are the statements from Ella, the mother, the statements from Abraham. The one police interview was Abraham's family, and I can't remember exactly who that was right now. So anyway, so there's tons of video evidence. Somebody leaked that video evidence. Somebody saw what happened, and they're like, we've got to get this out. Now, what you'll see in these testimonies is children saying horrific things about what happened to them, okay, and describing it only, in a way that a child can, okay. They describe sex toys in only the way that a child can, and they talk about how painful they were, okay. And folks, sorry, not sorry that I have to talk about this tonight. I don't like doing it. I'm enraged that we have to talk about this. So, Vic, I want to catch everybody up. If you are new, if you've never heard of the Hampstead case, okay, Ella Draper and her partner Abraham Christie, okay, were on vacation in Morocco, I think. And they somewhere in Southern Europe, and Ella had noticed that something was wrong with her kids for months, but didn't know what was going on. They were behaving very strangely. Finally, when they felt safe and they were on vacation with their mom and her mom's partner, Abraham, they disclosed what had been going on. And they began to disclose very detailed what had happened to them, where it had happened at, who was doing it, who else was it was happening to, where they were getting the victims from, how they were covering it up, okay, where just all kinds of little details of where did they keep the bowl at where they put the blood in, where was the nail at or the screw where they hung the babies on and drained the blood, how just little details like this. So Vic, in a few minutes that we're going to start watching this video and we're going to see some other stuff tonight, but I want to give you a chance to jump in there and just as we get ready to look at this.
Yeah. These kids are so articulate and their story doesn't waver. Even when the sheriff or, in the police video tries to confuse them or throw them off or get them to contradict, they're dead on. These are sharp kids. But yeah, I'm just thinking about what a sort of contradiction to this whole Me Too movement. This is, the Hampstead should be called the Not You movement. Like, we'll believe everybody. It happened to me too. It happened to me. It happened to me. It happened to me. No, it didn't. Not you. It, like, Elisa and Gabriel are the face of the Not You movement. And I talk about this a lot in the field that I talk about with the sleep paralysis. I said all the time, everything's out of the closet now. There's no shame. There's nothing taboo. We're talking about everything out there now. We can talk openly about the deep state and things going on in politics. And we can talk about, people who committed suicide who didn't really commit suicide. And we can talk about all this stuff on Gaia.com. And we can talk about UFOs and Akashic records and astral projection. But there's these certain things that get completely gaslit the second that you mention them. And this is definitely one of them. And there's so many layers to what we're dealing with here, Tom, because we've got the people who are trying to cover it up for obvious reasons. But then we have a lot of people, to Russ's point, that maybe this is true, but it is so horrifying of a concept. I can't even contemplate it, and there's a lot of, Christian moms out there. You can't even conceptualize it in your mind. You don't want to believe that your kids are going to school every day and live in a world where this is possible. So I understand the cognitive dissonance, but we got to put our big girl and big boy pants on tonight and have a discussion. This is going to be one of those nights, kind of like the prophet who got taken down under to the catacombs of the temple and was shown what was going on in the temple, and shown all of the abominations going on in Jerusalem. And that kind of stuff is still going on today. And we have to have the courage to not only just talk about it, but to embrace it and pray for it, and do the hard things too. Like Russ always talked about, one of the most effective ways of fighting this kind of evil is praying that these people would be forgiven. And that is one of the toughest things to do. And I think that it's interesting that we're doing this particular topic this week as we're coming to the latter days of the 10 days of awe between Feast of Trumpets and Day of Atonement, with Day of Atonement coming up in a day or so here. The one day of the year where the high priest would go into the temple and appeal to God for forgiveness of the sins of the entire nation. And so as we enter into that season, let's try with the power of the Holy Spirit to take the knowledge that we learned this week and somehow set aside our emotions and pray for these people and break the power that they have in these rituals.
Whoa, hey, hold on a second here. Grabbing my power cord in because I realized I was about to die here. So Vic, just I'm trying to summarize the whole story. We could actually do an 8-hour show on this story. And we wouldn't run out of stuff to talk about, just because the videos, the testimonies are so extensive, right?
Yeah.
But so just to catch people up, if you're new to Hampstead, this is what happened. Okay. The mother and her partner, Abraham Christie, they found this out, and they thought, wow, we have these children. Our children are telling us this information. We're going to go blow this thing wide open. We're going to go back to London where this happened, tell the police, and then we're going to catch these people. They were convinced 100% by the testimonies of their children. And by the way, Ella had full custody of Elisa and Gabriel. They went back there to tell them, to say, hey, you got to hear this testimony. This is going to be the biggest case of your career. And I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but they believed, okay, that they could go back to the police and the police were going to help them. Okay. They told Elisa and Gabriel, tell the truth and you'll be protected. Okay. And several times they were told, you're never going to have to be in harm's way again. You're never going to be put with the person that you accused. Okay. So, well, that's not what happened. Elisa and Gabriel were taken from their mother because they turned the tables and they said that Ella made up these stories and coached these children. Okay. And they said that she was a danger to the children, and they took the kids away from her. And then it was very coordinated, very sophisticated. These stories came out of the newspaper about her, basically saying this was a woman that was fighting for custody of her children, and she made up these crazy stories, okay, to try to get custody. Well, here's the thing. She had full custody. Why would she make up a crazy story like this, so extravagant, to try to get custody when she already had full custody? Okay. Now, I need to mention that the kids were examined by a doctor. The doctor concluded that they had been sexually abused, not just once, but it was ongoing abuse. Okay. Those records are available online. You can look at them. They're on some of our sites. Okay. We have several sites dedicated to this, by the way. London has a secret.com. Another one is elisaandgabriel.com. So, anyway, the mother, Ella, went into hiding. Yes, you can see the drawings there, the artwork that the kids did. So London has a secret.com, by the way. The mother had to go into hiding because if she didn't, they were going to arrest her. And basically, they wanted to shut this down. These kids exposed a pedophile ring that was happening. Okay. And according to the children, Wednesdays were the days that were the busiest days of sex, where adults would come in and rape these children. Okay. And they would give them sweets to pacify them while they're raping them. And we're going to get into more of that later. Again, if you're just tuning in, viewer discretion is advised. This is horrific material, what you're going to hear. And we can't stick our head in the sand. We have to expose this. God wants this exposed. He took Ezekiel and showed him what was going on in the underground. So, Katie, I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to watch a little bit of that clip that we were watching from the airport videos, and then I think maybe we'll skip up in a few minutes, maybe to the 12-minute mark, if I remember correctly. So let's go ahead and check this out. We're going back to this video that we started off with here. Yeah, go ahead.
Got you more used to it. But then we understood. Then when my mom found out about it, she understood. She told me that is wrong to do this kind of stuff. So then but then me and Gabriel had still been used to it. But then we had understood that it's wrong.
And so, what your decision is?
And then our decision, we had still a lot of fear in our head. But then when we read the book called June, it said that fear is the mind killer. So when we heard that, we thought that it was true. It was not really true. But then after, there was a man called Abraham who came to help us. He said that it is true, that fear is the mind killer. And then after he said we have to face our fear. So then after we faced our fear,
Looking at the camera. Camera is here.
and then we after.
Camera is here. This
And
one.
then after we faced our fear.
So, what's you decided?
And
Come here, Gabriel.
and we decided that we should stop. Or then we should
Come,
stop
Gabriel, come
being
closer to
babies,
Alice.
and we should stop doing sex. Or it's just going to be pointless, and it's just going to have to be going to jail and just go back.
So, what we're gonna do? We're gonna protect other babies and
then
children, huh? And save those children who are involved or who've been forced to be involved, right?
Yes. When you
Okay, so pause it right there, Katie. Listen to Ella. One of the things that she wants to protect other children there. Why would she be compelled? And I'm mentioning this, a lot of people are hearing this for the first time. They don't understand that they tried to blame this on Ella and say she made this up. But why would she want to protect other children if she had made this up? There would be no children in danger. So you got to pay attention to a lot of little things in language. What did you think watching that clip, Vic?
Oh man. I mean, I've seen it 100 times and I still just can't even get my head around it. But the nonchalant, blasé way she's just matter-of-factly talking about this stuff and having to be told by her mother these things are wrong, and just like, so I guess we learned that this stuff is wrong, and just you can already see the effects that this the desensitization that this has done, the innocence that has been stolen, and just that she can explain all of that with a dry eye and not even realize what's been taken from her. My heart breaks for when she gets older and realizes all that was taken from her. It breaks my heart that, ignorance is bliss, as they say, but at some point it's going to dawn on her that was my father, and he was there to protect me. And not only did he not do that, but all this happened there. I mean, I just think about the ripple effect of what that's going to do mentally and spiritually and emotionally. But even the reporter too is just kind of seems to just have this agenda. Like there doesn't seem to be a lot of horror going on in her either.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the voice that you hear behind the camera, Ella, the mother, is, she is, she's still out there fighting for justice. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. So, and we're also going to get into, there's so many facets that we need to mention, okay? Because we got to set it up good for tomorrow night, because tomorrow night we're going to talk about how the people that were trying to cover this up were exposed, okay? And we have a guest on tomorrow night called, her name is Hope Girl. She's been on with us a couple of years ago, and she's coming back, and she's just going to just kind of break it down what happened with her. So, guys, I realize that this is hard to listen to. This stuff is the hardest part of what I do. It really, really, really is. I feel like God gives us a special grace to deal with this. And I can't tell you how many times over the past, I don't know how many years, that I've just been so shaken by these testimonies and these stories. And when when you put them in video, and we've edited video and things like that, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Keep in mind, these kids don't look like this anymore. They're now teenagers. Okay. It's 8 years later. I'm pretty sure is about the time. So they are close to probably 16 years of age, right around there, give or take. And again, no justice has been done. So let's go ahead and continue to play that for a minute, Katie.
When you face the fear, you get less fear on you.
Okay, go ahead and let it play.
We decided to stop touching each children and stop touching each other, and stop touching ourselves and face our urge.
What else are you going to stop doing?
And stop touching ourselves. And we're going to stop touching ourselves.
And what else are you going to stop?
And stop killing babies. And stop killing babies, and we're going to face our fear and face our urge.
You're going to face your fear. Because fear is what?
Fear is the mind killer.
And you're going to help us to catch. Who are you going to help us to catch?
All the pedophiles. Papa, Mr. Collins, the school.
All the policemen, all the social services.
Speak up.
All the shopkeepers, all the cafes, all the pizza and McDonald's.
Who did you mention just now? Who? Caf what? Who's Kafkas?
You know, there's the people who work at Kafkas.
What is Kafkas?
Kafkas is they're for children. They work with the social services.
And what did they do to you?
Okay, so pause it right there, Katie. So they're talking about Kafkas. Kafkas is the UK version of CPS, okay? And these children have just disclosed the people that are involved, and they name teachers, they name police officers, they name just Kafkas workers, CPS workers, the headmaster, Mr. Hollings. They talk about, and later on we'll hear them talk about going to his house, okay, and give a detailed description on how to find a secret room in the house, okay. Vicky, you said something earlier that I think was key, is especially in the police interviews, the DC Steve Martin, DC stands for Detective Constable, okay, that's a UK thing, Scotland Yard. Detective Constable Steve Martin, it seems as though when he starts off that he is trying to find the truth out. Now, when you watch these interviews, he goes through an exercise with the children. I'm jumping way ahead, but that's okay. he goes through an exercise with the children, and we're not going to show this part. You guys can go watch this. We'll put all the links in the show notes. I suggest you watch all the videos and you pray and pray that God could help you watch these videos, because you're going to need God's help. But he goes through an exercise to show the kids the difference between a lie and the truth. And he said, we want you to tell the truth. And then he takes them through a series of questions, very difficult. He's a grown man, a professional investigator and an interrogator, and he questions these children. And without missing a beat, they give all the information. Okay. Now, let me just mention that the kids were in custody for a week. And then after that week was up, they came back to the police station and recanted. They said it's not true. Okay. That's key. Okay. So anyway, I want to jump back into this video, because these kids are naming all of the people that are involved. And the male voice that you hear is Abraham Christie, and he's trying to ask them questions, and he's trying to get the children just to disclose on camera what they've already disclosed. Okay. And there's a lot of video out there, and they showed how they did this. They split the kids up, and they would check their stories, and they would see, okay, let's see if the stories match up, and they matched up. Okay. So one of the things you hear them say there is they talk about how they're going to stop acting out sexually, because they had been acting out sexually because they've been sexualized. Folks, you're seeing firsthand the stories that carers, counselors, foster parents, ministers, okay, saw, and they've been telling us about for decades. But now you're seeing it firsthand. Okay, let's go.
They talk to me. They have plastic pullings, and they stick it in our bottom.
Who does? Who sticks it in your bottom?
Social services. Everybody does. All of them.
Who?
Everybody.
Does your mother do it?
No.
Do I do it?
No.
Who does it then?
Papa, Mr. Holding, the school.
Parents.
My dad's fair.
Tell me more people. Tell me some more people, please. I'm interested.
Parents, police.
What about the teachers at school? Who's the main one?
Papa, Mr. Hollings, Mrs. Forsyth.
Who's Mrs. Forsyth?
She's the head teacher of our school.
And what does she do?
And she does sex. She got a big belly with a big tattoo on her pride.
And what happens in the church?
And we do baby sacrifice and eat the baby.
So, okay, pause it right there. Guys, the details that they're giving are so crucial. These children drew pictures, and they talked about tattoos, okay, devil tattoos that were in the private areas of these teachers. And they drew pictures of them, okay? Now, you're going to hear them talk about plastic willies. They're referring to sex toys, okay? And they were raped with sex toys. And the kids even talk about it wasn't necessarily for the pleasure of the adult, but more to cause pain. They were getting more pleasure out of the pain of the child than they were out of the sex act, because they were using sex toys that you strap on. Okay. The children drew pictures of these sex toys. Okay. Some of you guys are hearing about this for the first time, and I'm going to be interested to hear what you think. Okay. About this. People in the UK were outraged. They did a complete blackout of the story. They tried to cover it up. Okay. And really, the public at large in the UK, they think this is a fake story, because they did such a good job over there of covering it up and discrediting the mother. Okay. But there are plenty of people that know that it's not. If you're in the UK, I want to hear from you. Please send us an email. Send us an email at throughtheblack.connect@outlook.com. You don't have to tell us your name, or I just want to hear, what do you think? You're in the UK, and do you know about this story? Have you heard about this? folks, we got to break through that UK wall, and we still got to get this. We got to get this story out. The whole reason for our campaign, LondonHasASecret.com, was to expose mostly Hampstead, but the other satanic ritual abuse cases. Vicky, go ahead.
Yeah, just to kind of put it into a little bit of context too for Americans, Hampstead is a very affluent postcode over in England. It would kind of be like the Beverly Hills of our country. Not only is it very affluent, a lot of rich people, but it's very much like celebrities live there. And that's not to say that the celebrities are involved, but the same sort of suspicions that we have of Hollywood, and we kind of are like, well, Hollywood, and they're full of Satanists, and pretty much the same feelings and assumptions and stereotypes that we have of Hollywood and Beverly Hills is kind of sort of the equivalent over there. So just, some of us, especially if you haven't been overseas, it's hard to picture things, but Hampstead is very affluent. And so this is very rich, elite people living there. It kind of fits the general, profile of these types of people. And I won't go too far down the rabbit hole here, Tom, but I've always found it very interesting that the location of the fictional story Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, took place in Hampstead Heath. And it doesn't come out in our modern Hollywood movies, but if you've read the book and if you know anything about Victorian literature, Lucy Westenra, who is like the first kind of ingenue who becomes a vampire in the book, she isn't off biting handsome young men. She's killing children. She's killing minors, and you lose it in the modern vernacular. But when she bites these children, brings them to their transition or their death, it uses the word wanton pleasure. And so that's lost on modern readers. But back in Victorian and Romantic literature, that phrase was a scandalous phrase. It was an erotic phrase. It carried deep sexual, that the word wanton had to do with kind of, intimate acts. And so the whole concept of Dracula is this concept where children are being preyed upon by people in Hampstead Heath, and that there's this very subtle sort of sexual erotic undertone to it. So kind of makes you wonder if the elite writer Bram Stoker at that time maybe knew something and was fictionalized something very horrific.
And I've covered this in a presentation that I've done before, and I'll probably be covering it at the end of the month when we go back to Pennsylvania. By the way, Crushing Hell's Weekend or Destroying Hell's Weekend is a conference we're going to be doing at the end of the month in Pennsylvania. And in a couple weeks, actually next week, we're going to be Crushing Hell's Weekend. Yeah. Next week, we're going to be in Louisville. Advanced Spiritual Warfare, and there is a code. Somebody called. I talked to him today, a friend of mine, and yes, hearthewatchmen.com. Use the discount code Tom20 to save $20. So, but hearthewatchmen.com. So, just kind of jumping in there and talking about that. Vic, I want to see how much video that we can cover tonight. Yeah. Katie, can you bring up, speaking of actors, can you bring up a picture of the accused? And this is the man here, Ricky Dearman, the father of Elisa and Gabriel. Okay. And here's this man. When this news, when these videos came out, they immediately tried to smear the mom and discredit her, and then they tried to save this guy. Okay, now let's take a look. Go ahead and play that since it looks like it's queued up, Katie. Let's take a look at the response of the father, Ricky Dearman. This is a BBC interview. Look how it's lighted, okay? Look, the way they handle this. Look at these softball questions. We're not going to watch a whole lot of this, but I want you to just kind of get an idea of this guy. He is a wannabe actor, okay? And well,
for real.
Yeah. This is the accused.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay.
They said
There's nothing there, bud. Nothing there.
that I'd sexually abused them. And I was selling them to people. Like it's wonderful.
Okay, so that's enough of that. So yeah, that's so cringy. That's so crazy to watch. It really, really is. That was the puff piece, the cover-up piece that the BBC, okay, produced. And when I say produced, I mean produced, okay? They had to put that out there. Why? Okay? This could have just been a headline, all right? But people were getting, you know what I'm saying? People were asking questions, okay? They were afraid this was going to spread. Keep in mind, in Belgium, okay, Marc Dutroux was a man who got caught abusing children. They slapped him on the wrist. Okay. He went to jail for a little bit, came out, did the same thing, and they tried to slap him on the wrist again. And tens of thousands of people took to the streets in Belgium. And I think they remembered that. And they knew if the people of London found out the truth about what happened in Hampstead, that they would take to the streets. I really believe that. And they had to cover this up, just like they covered for Jimmy Savile. Agree.
Exactly.
So, Katie, let's go back to the video. And guys, we can watch so much stuff. Let's fast forward to maybe the 12-minute mark. I think that was one of the ones that I had there in this first clip. And we're gonna watch a little bit more. We could just watch the whole thing, is what we could do. And you guys will be blown away. We're gonna put the links in the show notes so you guys can watch this stuff. So listen, this is Gabriel here. God bless this little guy. He's not little anymore, but go ahead.
They asked you many times, didn't they?
Yeah, and to make me say yes or no, they don't.
They want you to say no, that your mother doesn't feel.
So we go and live with a dad.
Oh, they're attempting to.
Producer will say, "Oh, look, Dad is really nice. He doesn't do no."
So, do you think your father knows these people?
Yes, my father knows everybody who does the sex, but not your friend. That friend who's following you.
Who?
That friend you talked about who was following you, and your children said, "Hey, Dad, there's something wrong with that child." Yeah, he's not. I don't know.
Your father doesn't know that one. So that's one person your father doesn't know that we know who does it.
And there's also, and Spike.
Wait.
Okay, let's
Tell me more
let
stuff.
it play.
Tell me about this cult that you're in.
This cult is because the first time whenever we ever done it.
Did what?
We saw Papa kill a baby, and me and Gabriel done. Then when they done sex to me and Gabriel.
Who did sex to you?
Papa, the others, when we just came
Who
to
was the
school.
others? Who was the others?
Mr. Hollings, Mr. Forth, all the parents and the teachers and Papa.
Can you give me the names of some of these parents and teachers, please?
Laura, Sophie, Sophie's mom. Yeah,
Laura who? Who's
Laura Herlicar.
Give me their surnames if you can remember.
Laura Herlicker, Sophie Dix, Jackie Cowell,
Who are the leaders of this cult?
Papa.
And who is
Papa.
Papa? Who is Papa?
Papa is my dad. He's Ricky. His name is Ricky Dearman, and he does really. He's the boss
Of what?
of the whole thing.
Of the what? Boss of what?
Of the whole cult. The whole Peter Paul ring.
And what do they do in this cult?
They do sex there. They kill babies.
Sex to whom?
They do sex to children. They do it to each other.
And what are the babies for? What do you get the babies?
We said the social services to do it. Unfortunately, they get the babies from families who can't look after the baby and who don't want the baby.
Really?
Yes.
Social services, I find that difficult to believe.
Yes.
What's their name?
Richie.
Richie whom?
Richie, I don't know his surname, but it's Richie. His
The
name
one
is.
who came to our house. And
He's your particular social service, he's your worker that helps.
Yes, and Ella, the other lady who first time. Yes, she came to our house in 47 Hollycroft Avenue.
One second.
Okay, so, and it goes on and on and on, and they give great detail. They name names, and one of the things there that she said in that clip is she talked about how they got the children. And on, I think it was the Russia Today news site, and we put a little clip of this together of Elisa talking where with news stories where they actually stole children, took kids right out of the hospital away from their parents. Okay, and the reasons were ridiculous. There were non-reasons. Okay, it could have been, well, the parents don't make enough money, we're going to take your kid. It was forced adoption is what they called it. And the parents and the grandparents were screaming and crying because the government came in. This is true. We're not going to show it tonight, okay? But the government came in and stole these kids. Okay? Elisa didn't know that. She didn't know about those news stories. And here she's telling the other side and she's explaining. And Abraham's like, I find that hard to believe. Where are they getting these kids? Well, they're getting them from parents that can't take care of them, and on and on and on. Guys, we could go on and on and on about this case, and we could show you the details. Okay. I was looking for the clip earlier. I couldn't find it, and I don't know if we'll run across it, about how Elisa talks about, I think it was Elisa, that talks about how the school nurse gives a shot to the baby so the baby will go to sleep, so then they can sacrifice the baby. Okay. Now, keep this in mind, folks. And I don't think there's any need to defend Ella. She stands completely vindicated as far as I'm concerned. But if there's anybody out there that has doubt, think about all the details that Ella and Abraham would have had to train these children. Guys, you ever watch a movie with a child actor? There's a lot of good child actors. But no matter how good they are, you can still tell that they're acting for the most part. Okay? And watch these kids and tell me that they're acting. Okay? Tell me that they're acting. The only people that believe they're acting were those who were paid to cover it up. Okay? In the organization that were trolls that were coming after us. We're going to be talking about them in more detail tomorrow night and how they got exposed for who they were and how, they were getting paid. And they had a business, basically to cover up crimes and to troll people. Anyway, Katie, I want to go to the next video, the police interview.
Aren't being done by an outside party. That's being done by Ella and Abraham. And so if these videos were, the practice run, so to speak, we're going to ask you these questions, there would be a lot of like, okay, wait, cut, wait, what am I supposed to say? Or there'd be like pauses, or you'd have the upward eye movements, where you're trying to retrieve memories versus trying to remember something. you'd have the looking at the mom or the nervous or there's nothing going on. In fact, there's not even a hesitation to answer the questions. When the two kids are together, they're talking over each other and they're sometimes in sync with each other. They're not even pausing to like remember, or it's right there. They're having no trouble recalling any of this.
Your best Hollywood child actors could not pull off this performance, okay? Because it's not a performance. These guys are reacting, okay, to questions that are being asked of them because they were there and they're just repeating what they saw. So if we can go to that police interview, we're going to jump into it. Folks, again, so much material to cover. We can't cover it all. This is Elisa in the interrogation room. This is just one of the interviews, okay? I believe each kid had 3 interviews, the last one being a recanting, okay? And the recanting is very quick. They go in and there's no challenging any of it. There's just, it's basically bringing them in and having them, make the statement, yeah, I made it all up and it's not true and I was forced to say it or whatever. Okay. Now, keep in mind, Ella took a lie detector test because she had been accused of coaching these kids. She passed the lie detector test. And anyway, yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video here and see what we got. We're gonna watch some of this, Vicky, and just kind of try to take our time because I really want to be thorough with this tonight and just cover this. So let's go ahead and watch this video here. Go ahead, Katie.
Going and there's the head mistress office there.
Okay.
And then the staff toilet, and it's just this like where the teachers go and do the typing and work.
Yeah.
And there's upstairs there's year 4 and year 5.
Yeah.
And after just like I'm in year 4, so in year 4 there's just there, and then year 5 is there on that side,
Okay.
and the staff room is just at the front of us.
Okay.
So just walk in the staff room, and then there's this kitchen, and then there's a sofa, and that's where we do sex.
So why do you go in there first of all? Why don't you just go to class?
Like, we go to class sometimes too, yes.
Right. So
We go to class sometimes, yes.
Okay, so you go to class.
Yes.
Okay, and then what happens when you get
And
to
then
class?
they got this, in my classroom, they got this little door at the back, right at the back
Yeah.
of the classroom. They've got a little door, and it's just a little tiny little room. It's all stuffed with sweets, prizes, especially to pay the children with sweets to do sex to them.
Right.
Yeah, so they give sweets as much as they like.
Yeah.
So they give sweets so till they're like full, they're done. So because while they eat the sweets, they do sex to them. So they pay them sweets, and then after they do what they want them to do.
Okay.
Because our children.
What children? What children?
So there's children from our school, 200 children in our
Yes.
school. But it's not like all.
Okay.
There's 20
What
special
ones? Tell
children.
me, who are these 20 special
There's
children?
Millie, she's a brown girl.
Millie who?
Millie Cowell,
Millie Cow.
yes.
Okay. So how do you know she's one of the 20 special children?
Because I know, because she comes and they do sex to her, mostly.
Who's they? Who's they?
The teachers, the parents, the staff.
Every single teacher or specific teachers?
No, the whole school does it. The whole school, and we got our own church.
Yeah.
Too. So because they do that, because after, as I said, we kill babies, we drink their blood, we eat them.
Okay.
But then after so the social services who are in it,
Yeah.
they go to families, So if the families can't afford, so they got a baby, but they can't look after it or anything. They can't buy food, or they can't buy clothes. They can't look after it. So the families who sell their children.
Yeah.
So the social services get them. They say they get them to a foster home, but they don't. They get the babies or the children, and then they get Miss Marden our nurse in our school, she injects the child or baby in the neck just here though.
Right, okay. And how do you know that?
Because I saw her doing it.
How did you see her doing it?
Because I saw her in the staff room. She was getting this. So she got this injection, and she done. So the baby was there. It was just sitting on the table,
Right.
and I was just laughing there. And after she just injected her, and it was it was slowly went to sleep. But not just like a thud, not like just fell straight away. They put because it looked like it was slowly moving down like that.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
and then after
So baby's gone to sleep.
yes, and then after they get put on this bit, they get the baby to hang it upside down.
Okay, pause it right there for a second. So I like the comment. Not even an adult actor could keep this going for this long. So you can even tell when adults are lying, right? And police officers, Vic, how many police interrogations did we watch, earlier than in the year when we were covering all that stuff, right?
Yep.
And police are professionals at being able to trip these guys up, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That was not happening here, all right? They, anytime, and maybe it doesn't show it here, but, the interviews are very long. The children would correct the officer, DC Steve Martin, when he would say something wrong. He'd be like, no, it was this way,
Right.
and when
Right.
he was trying to understand what was going on. So what you just heard there was a lot of things, okay? She was giving detail of what her school looked like on the inside, how they paid off the children, okay, with sweets, okay, so they could rape them. All right. And then she talked again about the social services taking the children. Wow, what a bombshell. Because we've only heard one side of the story from the news media that there's forced adoption. But she just said, and I just caught something I didn't catch before. She said that they're being told they're going to foster homes, but they're not. They're coming here for sacrifice. They're coming to the school for sacrifice. So Elisa is old enough that she could catch on to all this stuff. And then there's the part I was talking about, Vicky, where she said that the school nurse, Mrs. Martin, injects the baby. She showed him where in the neck, okay, and said she saw her do it. She said, "How do you know?" The officer said, "How do you know Miss Martin does that?" She said, "Because I saw her do it."
Mm-hmm.
Very confidently. And she replied, okay, very naturally, okay, like someone in defense of, their statement. And because he was questioning, he was like, how do you know? How do you know she does it? And she was bringing, confidence and just saying matter of factly, because I saw her do it. And she explained how the baby fell asleep, very slowly fell asleep. I remember in one of the other interviews, I think they were talking to Gabriel, and he said he had tasted blood, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you tasted blood. So what does blood taste like?" And he explained what it tastes like metal, like iron. So, Vic, jump in there.
So I'm just thinking now, for anybody who watched the shows, was it last week when we did Anton LaVey and Aleister Crowley, and then the next day we did Who Are the Satanists in Your Neighborhood, and we kind of broke down the different types of Satanism. And what's interesting to me, and I'm assuming this is the generational Satanism that's going on here in this situation, but when you look at the kind of the code of ethics that LaVey and Crowley put forth, and all this stuff that's kind of on the up and up, like never hurt a child, don't initiate sex with someone unless you get the mating signal. It looks all so, moral, and it's just this religious thing. And what do we hear all the time from, the OTO and everything? It's always like, we don't do sacrifices. That's all myth. And we would never hurt a child. And we don't do, sacrifices. And so, to hear these to see these videos and these interviews, explicit detail, you know. And yeah, are there people out there who are just dabbling in the occult, and they've got the accoutrements, and they've got their little card from, the Satanic Temple, and the dabblers? Of course there are people out there that don't really ever get heavily involved, but this is just evidence out there that a lot of these things that are front facing towards the public, all the moral codes and the things that they swear up and down that they don't do. You just saw Ricky Dearman wiping a dry face, and
that's an example of bad acting.
It's bad acting. So if they're proven to be liars, Ella passed a lie detector test. Did Dearman ever take a lie detector test, Tom?
No.
Yeah, so there you go. So the fact is, maybe they're lying too when they say we would never hurt a child and we'll only initiate sex if you give the mating signal. It's just a bunch of baloney.
I agree. Hey, Katie, can we back that video up about 15 or 20 seconds to hear her talk about the injection again? Because I just want to drive that point home. That part is so powerful, because she just illustrates with her hands, she gestures and shows exactly how they did it, where they did it. That's not how in the world, if Ella thought and coach those kids, that, by the way, you just mentioned she passed a lie detector test, that she didn't do that. Okay. How did she think? Now, when you're telling about the injection, okay, if they happen to even ask, just remember this fact, point to your neck and say, this is where they injected, right? Make sure you do it this way. Okay. Make sure. It's ridiculous to think that these kids made this story up. Go ahead, Katie.
Mm-hmm. They can't buy food, or they can't buy clothes. They can't look after it. So the families who sell their children.
Yeah.
So the social services get them. They say they get them to a foster home, but they don't. They get the babies or the children, and then they get Miss Marden, our nurse in our school. She injects the child or baby in the neck, just here though.
Right. Okay. And how do you know that?
Because I saw her doing it.
How did you see her doing it?
Because I saw her in the staff room. She was getting this. So she got this injection, and she done. So the baby was there. It was just sitting on the table.
Right.
And I was just laughing there. And after she just injected her, and I was I was slowly went to sleep. But not just like a thud, not like just fell straight away. They put, because it looked like it was slowly moving down like that.
Right.
Yes. So then after
so baby's gone to sleep.
Yes, and then after they get put on this bit, they get the baby to hang it upside down.
And
yes, with the string.
From where?
On the wall, because there's this little like is a screw, and they put a string, it's like a circle string, tie it to the legs, hang it upside down, and then they get the knife they use for cutting the baby's head off. So this big ones, like this big Chinese ones, which you chop up coconuts and stuff.
Right.
Yes, they get cleavers, aren't they? No.
Okay.
I don't know what they're called.
You've described it well enough.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So then because our dad, he forces me and Gabriel to do it. But because we're not strong enough to cut the baby's head off, he does us to hold the knife, and he puts his hand at the top of our hand, and he helps us to cut the baby's head off. Because he's learning, he's teaching me and Gabriel, so when we're older, to do it to our own children and do this kind of stuff to our own children.
Where is it that happens?
The church, the kitchen in our church.
The kitchen in the church.
Yes, they got.
So, right, this string. Tell me about this string.
Okay, so pause it right there real quick. I want to, she didn't say it there. She said part of it there. She said, he's teaching us so when we grow up, we can teach our children. Okay, so that's generational. She's explaining generational Satanism, and she doesn't even know that she's doing it. Okay. Now, in another interview somewhere else, she implicates her grandmother, Ricky Dearman's mom, is involved in it. Okay. And says that she passed it on to him and he's passing it on to us. Okay. So keep in mind, very possible Ricky Dearman, if he wouldn't have had this little setback, that he could have been an up and coming actor in Hollywood. How many actors have been through this, but they didn't get caught? Okay. Now, when you're watching that video, and we're going to continue to watch here for a little bit longer, you're going to see Elisa describe these places with her hands. Okay. And she's describing, she doesn't know the right word. She says a cleaver, a knife, a Chinese knife to cut a coconut with. She's like, I don't know what you call it. Okay. And then, she's talking about a screw in the wall where they hang a string on and they hang this baby up to drain the blood out of it. Okay. And she has spatial awareness. Okay. She's been there. She's seen this. She's been in that room. She knows where the cabinets are. She knows where the screw is. Okay. She gives all of this detail. Okay. You can't do that, Vicky, if you're reading this off of a script, right?
No way.
You just can't do it. So,
well, and it seems strange to me too, because usually when an adult is going to take advantage of or deceive a child, they'll lie to it. So I'm thinking that the reason she has all of this information, because usually a guy isn't going to tell, his kid, okay, now we're going to give you candy as payment for, like they wouldn't explain it like that. They would cover it up to where the kid would think that this is normal, this is innocent. And so it makes sense to me in the generational Satanism sense that the reason she has such explicit detail about what's going on is because, exactly like she said, he's teaching us. And we have to know this. And one day we have to do this for ourselves and we have to train our children. And so that to me explains why she has all the detail about the CPS and where the kids are coming from and the nurse and all that. Because if they were just these expendable, pieces of just you're just the kids that we're going to sacrifice or that we're going to abuse, those kids aren't getting the benefit of an explanation or any sort of understanding as to what's happening to them or why. And so I think that the fact that she and her brother have explicit detail about even why they're doing this and how they're doing this does show that it is a grooming process. They are being taught this thing. They know all this stuff because they're being expected to know it.
Guys, if you're just tuning in, we are diving into the Hampstead case. We haven't talked about this in a while on this show in this depth. There's a reason for that, and we can't really go into it right now. We have been probably one of the number one shows, one of the number one groups out there talking about this case. Okay. And we're not trying to be boastful, but we're just saying this has been a big part of our lives. Okay. In the past few years, and we have taken a break from it, for a reason, but we're talking about it again. We're not afraid of the subject. Okay. We still want justice, all right, for these children, and we're still seeking it. And you know what? If Elisa and Gabriel one day they are getting help and they're getting healing, I hope that they know that there were groups out there like Through the Black that believe their testimony and fought for them. So I want to go, and I'm a little bit lost as to where we are. So let's go ahead and watch a little bit more of this video. And then I think we might have another, we might be at another clip. Yeah. I think we might pop up to the 30-minute one here in a few minutes. So go ahead.
Normal string. It's a bit thick, it's like maybe that thick.
Okay.
And they tie around.
Okay.
Like in a circle.
Right.
Hang it up on
Where do they tie it to on the baby?
So it's like on legs. So they put the legs together, tie it on,
Yeah.
And so it's like one string around and then one string attached,
Yeah.
and it's hanging upside down. They get the knife, but they don't just cut it off absolutely. It's still on, so it's just like the head off, but it's still hanging on.
So okay.
Yes, and then there's a big white bowl on the floor, and then the blood drips in, and then we pour it in a big silver goblet.
Okay, so where's this white bowl? Where did they get the white bowl from?
They bought the big white bowl.
From where?
From there's any shop, any white.
And where did they get the bowl? Where did they get the bowl from this time?
Any shop like this. So
But you obviously didn't see them get the bowl.
No, I don't know what shop, but I think they went to this what is it called in next Brent Cross.
Okay.
It's near Brent Cross.
And where is it kept at the
in a cupboard.
What cupboard?
This is just like a normal cupboard, so it's like
Whereabouts?
like a cupboard, like a kitchen cupboard.
Right, okay.
So
And where is this kitchen cupboard?
There's a kitchen in the church and in a school.
Right, there's a kitchen.
Yes.
I've got it. This kitchen. So we're in the kitchen.
Yes.
Baby's hanging up.
Yes.
And you said that there's a
Yes.
white
So
bowl.
yes.
And it's kept in a
Yes.
cupboard. So what cupboard is it kept in?
It's just a wooden cupboard. So it's like.
Okay. So if I was to go in the kitchen, how would I find it? Tell me how I can find
So
this
it's
bowl.
like it's not as big as this room. It's much bigger. Much
Okay.
bigger.
Right.
So it's just like maybe just around on this wall, just around here. There's this little cupboard.
Right.
It's not little. It's kind of medium size.
Right. There's a medium cupboard. So where's the door? And so you
Yes,
describe
the door is a bit like that. A bit like that.
So the door's over there.
Yes.
Then you said the cupboard would be in the other corner.
Yes.
Have I got that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And is the cupboard up in the top or down on the bottom?
No, it's at the top, like in the middle, like that. Yes.
And you said it's wooden. What colour wooden?
Just normal brown wood.
Okay. And there are any other cupboards around it?
Yes, there is some other cupboards like around the walls.
So,
Lots and lots and lots.
So-
It's just a few.
if I come in, how can I go to that cupboard without making any mistake with one of the others?
So like if you come in a room, here's this sink, and here's this big table, and just this as I said, a cupboard.
Okay.
So you see this frame and it says
Yeah.
Wish.
Yeah.
It's like a bit bigger than that size, and it's just that color of wood, a bit brown.
Yeah.
And then it's just this cupboard, and it just got the normal handles, and then just like.
Okay. So you guys get the picture, okay? And we're going to skip to that 30-minute mark, and we're going to watch some more of this testimony of from Elisa. Again, folks, viewer discretion advised. What these children are disclosing. The children were separated, and the stories were checked. They lined up. The police interviewed them separately. What do you do? What do you do when you find this out? It's hard to go back to normal life. It's hard to pretend everything is okay, Vicky.
Yeah. So Tom, after they came in and recanted and said, just kidding, what about the doctor or the nurse that examined them and said, yes, definitely there's evidence of multiple sexual abuse? She recant? Did she turn up suicide? What happened to her?
You know what? I think they got her to say that she had mistaken.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
But her report, the detailed report is out there. I think it's on our website. London Has a Secret. You can find that medical report on these kids. And her original statement was that the sexual abuse was not just one time, but it was ongoing. Okay. So it had happened for, a period of time. But so let's get into this right here, this 30-minute mark. And I think what we're getting into is Elisa is being asked about Mr. Holling's house. Okay. And she talks about this hidden room. in the back of a wardrobe. She said you can push the coats aside and there's a fake wall there. And then you can go down a stairs and then there's a room. Okay. Wow. That's pretty crazy. Okay. That she said
That sounds
that.
familiar.
Yeah. So, so then the police officer, DC Steve Martin, he asked her about he's trying to find out, is she making this up or has she really been to this house? So he asked her, what else is in the house? You know, describe what you see when you go in the door. And she describes there's a table there. I think she says there's a bowl on it. There's a couch. There's a TV. You know, she describes it. Okay. What it looks like. So let's go ahead and roll this footage of later on in this testimony.
First of all, if you stand up for me,
Yes.
stand up. Can you stand up? So, how high to you is the table?
Here,
Okay.
here, somewhere here.
Okay, so it's somewhere there. And
Yes.
then what colour is it?
It's just normal, like black color like this. It's normal wood and black.
Wood and black.
Yes,
So it's
just
wood and
normal.
black.
Yes,
Okay. So it's so it's a little bit higher than this
Yes.
table. It's wood and black.
Yes.
Square.
yes. So it's just like that big, like
Okay.
that. That's the same like this and like this.
Okay. And then, right, so that's the top of it,
Yes.
described, and it's square.
Yes.
And then when you go down a bit, what's
Yes,
there?
just under the table, there's shoes there. His shoes there. So
Okay.
like all his different kind of shoes.
So
His
under the
shoes,
table
yes.
keeps his shoes.
Yes.
Okay. And then what about the floor? What's on the floor?
On the floor is just, as I said, it's just got shoes on. And
Okay,
it got a
but
little
what's the floor?
carpet.
Sorry?
It got carpet on the
Carpet.
floor too.
What sort of carpet?
Well, it's not like carpet. Like it's not like carpet everywhere. There's like when you come in the house and there's just usually a small carpet at the front of the door. Yeah, it got that, and then the rest is just wooden.
What
Wooden,
sort of
just-
wood?
Brown, just you see this colored door, just that like that.
That shows quite a dark brown. Can you just
Yes.
move the camera to the door for us to see? So that's sort of colour brown. So that's colour brown for his floor.
Yes,
So you go down the corridor,
yes.
and then what rooms are off the corridor?
So where's this corridor? Here's the living room. Here's the kitchen, and then just there's this toilet, and then here's you go up the room, up the
Okay.
stairs.
Okay. So go in.
Yes,
There's a living room,
yes,
a kitchen,
yes,
a downstairs toilet, and
yes,
some stairs that go upstairs.
yes, yes,
And have you been in all of those rooms downstairs?
yes.
Okay. Tell me about the living room first of all. What's in
The
there?
living room. They got secret rooms in there.
What does that mean?
They got secret rooms in there.
In the living room?
Yes,
Okay. Well,
they're
tell me
top
about.
secret. Top secret.
Okay. If we talk about the not top secret bits first of all, tell me
Yes.
about the normal bits of the living room.
Yes, it's just like it's bigger than this.
Okay, so it's a room bigger than this.
Yes, it's a big large room, and then you got a table, you got television, you got a sofa. It's like a normal living room.
Okay.
Yes, and just there's like a half part is a living room, and a half part is a dining room.
Okay.
So it's like mixed rooms. That's why it's big.
Okay. So
Yes.
it's got a living room and a dining room.
Yes,
Yeah? And
in one whole room.
has he got any tables or chairs or
Yes.
sofas or anything
Yes,
like that?
yes.
What's he got?
So you've got television, just a big Samsung,
Samsung. How do you know
Yes.
it's Samsung?
because you can see silver writing Samsung on.
Okay, so he's got Samsung telly, a big
Yes.
one. And where is that telly?
It's just like a different, like it looks a bit like a table like that, but it's a bit smaller.
And
It's a bit like this size, this height.
And how big is the
Okay, so pause it.
It's just this,
We're going to go back to this, okay? But she's giving great detail about Mr. Holling's house.
Mm-hmm.
Say that nothing bad went on there. Why in the world as a student? How many times have you been to your principal's house?
Yeah, never. Not to mention the fact that if their story is correct and Ella made this all up, then Ella would have had to have been there as well.
Right. Exactly. So, I saw mentioned in the comments here a minute ago was the Blue House story in Evansville, Indiana. I actually went to that location where that house was. It was tore down. And I got some directions there and was able to find out where it used to be. But I'm bringing that up because you can take a look at the Blue House case. You can take a look at the Hampstead case. and they happen on different continents, but they were essentially years apart and thousands of miles apart on two different continents, but in a lot of ways they were very, very similar cases. Okay.
Mhm.
Now John Pounders made an amazing movie about the Blue House. Okay. You guys, I don't know if that's still available. It's probably available on his TV channel,
Now you
all
see.
that stuff. Yeah, now you see. So, but it's interesting that John and I didn't even know each other. We were both working on a film exposing satanic ritual abuse at the same time. To me, God bless John. I miss that guy. I haven't seen him in a while. But I heard a rumor he's coming on the show next season, by the way.
Hey.
So anyway, John Pounders made a movie about satanic ritual abuse, same time as I did. We didn't even know each other. And we found out, hey, we're working on a movie about the same thing. And that tells me God wants this exposed. Okay. So if anybody doesn't know, yes, if you're new to this channel, we made a film called Detestable. And when I was making Detestable, I prayed and fasted about going to London to cover Hampstead. Okay. The plan was I was going to do it, but I didn't have a peace about it. Okay. And I prayed and prayed, and I could not get a peace about going over there. And I think it's a good thing I didn't go, because people were being arrested for investigating that case. Okay. There was another guy that went over there that was going to make a documentary out of it, and he went to prison in the UK. He got out and came home. Okay.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a good thing I didn't go. Some people were upset at me about it, but when I saw all of the footage I had, we had enough to make Detestable. Okay. Hampstead is a standalone film. But anyway, let's get back and watch a little bit more of this footage here. And the reason I want to show so much of this is I just want you guys to know how credible this testimony is. Okay. Folks, even though we're spending a lot of time watching it, we're still not doing it justice. Okay.
No.
Watching all of the video footage out there, we have it all saved somewhere on our databases and on our computers. We probably have, I don't know how many copies of it. It's hard to find out there, but we did find these copies online. You can find them, okay, online. So let me just take time to say this. Are there any whistleblowers? Are there any Hampstead whistleblowers that want to remain anonymous and want to tell us about what happened, about what you know? Okay. And maybe it's a child that's that's growing up, that grew up over there. Maybe it's a parent. Maybe that there was a story of one parent coming forward saying all of it was true.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you go ahead.
I have a couple little comments here too. So with her extraordinary detail, I'm just kind of sitting here thinking, if I had to explain like my kitchen in the house in Minnesota that I lived in for years and haven't lived in there now for 9 months, if you asked for extraordinary detail as to like colors and what the tile looked like, I don't even know if I could recall it anymore. But what's interesting to me is when you have been through a traumatizing situation, something like this, some kind of abuse, even like a divorce, like if your parents get divorced or if you've had surgeries when you were a kid, the events surrounding a trauma are crystal clear in your mind. And you remember the couch and you remember the pattern of the linoleum and you remember the smells because it's all embedded in that memory as part of the trauma. And so part of me is thinking, I know kids are observant and they're young and they're sharp and they can recall things like this. But when it's surrounding a trauma, you're going to be able to recall a lot of those details. And another thing I wanted to say is her reference to the secret rooms. This is something that came out when Cappy was exposing Isaac Cappy was exposing Hollywood celebrities, specific ones by name. And he was saying that the way this whole entire Hollywood ring came to his attention was that he was over at a friend's house. And I know who the friend is. I'm just not saying it in case it gets, censored. But while he was in this house, the celebrity and his wife showed him the secret rooms in their house. And we also see this alluded to in Hollywood films. I know the remake of the Fright Night movie that came out around 2011, 12, whenever that was. In this film, the main character, which was a vampire, he had this like secret. It was like a sub-level basement with all these secret rooms. And so, for a child to come up with the fact that there's top secret rooms in her principal's office, and I can just see obviously the allusions to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe are so strong. You go into a wardrobe and you put the clothes aside, and I can even see how they might make secret rooms to look like that, so that when a kid talks about it, they're scoffed at because it's just such a famous piece of imagery from literature. And so they're like, oh yeah, if a kid's going to make up a secret room, they're going to get it from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And so I can even see how there's care put into how they make these secret rooms, so that when a child explains it, it seems silly, because it seems like they're just borrowing it from fiction.
Yeah. Rick M asked if there was going to be a sequel to Detestable. Well, that's what we want to do, and we want to go deeper. Detestable went so far, but I want to go even further with the sequel. We started out, we had a plan, and we did make a movie. Okay, it was called This Is a War. It wasn't the movie we wanted to make. We still want to make that sequel to Detestable. And the working title was The Darkest of Red. Okay. I've not forgotten about that. And that's something that we want to do, but the timing's got to be right. We got to have the right testimony and just everything. So we're way behind on that, but that's okay. We're not behind as far as God's concerned. It's going to be in his timing. We've had some candidates, but the people don't want to go on camera. And for personal reasons, they're not ready to come on camera. I have some people that I really, really want to do interviews with, but they just don't want to tell their story. And we hear that a lot. When I was making Detestable, a lot of people contacted me and told me this is real. This happened to me. They told me their story. And they said, by the way, yeah, I'm not coming on camera. And I just gave myself goosebumps thinking of some of that stuff right now. So the stuff that we cut out and the stuff that we didn't follow in Detestable, and I'm thinking of two stories that were just so powerful and unexplainable. But yeah, anyway, we are we want to do more film. We're working on, obviously, as you guys can see, putting out more content. By the way, this is our 6th week back in this season. We have been at it, Vicky. I can't believe the beginning of the 6th week. I know that you're wore out. I am wore out. Katie is all behind the scenes. Okay. We are just at our wits' end, folks. So we appreciate the prayers and the support. Yeah, Vicky's going crazy over there. She's like getting delirious laughing. So
I can literally say, Tom, you made me sick.
Yes. There's some things going on behind the scenes and attacks and crazy stuff that are happening. So we need your prayers. We appreciate that, folks. We want to blow this thing up bigger than ever. Okay, when I say that we want to be the front line of resistance for the satanic takeover of our culture, I mean it. And by the grace of God, we're going to expand what we're doing. We're going to do more than we've ever done before. We have shown that in the last 6 weeks. I just want to mention, Vic, that we're getting ready to take a break. So Saturday night is going to be our last show for a couple weeks. We're taking a very much deserved break. We're going to try to rest. We got a lot of things we got to do during that break. That's not going to be very much of a break, but we've got conferences to speak at and things. And you're working like crazy doing the stuff that you're doing. So podcasts and all that. But anyway, then we're going to be coming back. Okay. And we're going to have almost 50 shows before the end of the year. So anyway, guys, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your support, for sharing everything that you guys do. You guys are telling us that you want us to continue on. We believe there's a bigger audience out there, that there's more people that can benefit from the shows that we're doing. Okay. So we're looking, where's our audience? We're looking for you. But I want to get back into this. There's more to talk about the Hampstead case tonight. So let's watch some more video here of Elisa being interviewed by DC Steve Martin, and let's see what else she has to say here.
A bit smaller.
And
It's a bit like this size, this height.
And how big is that area thing?
It's the same size, but it's just this height.
So it's as big as this,
Yes.
but smaller. So
Yes.
that is height. Of this.
Yes.
But okay.
And it's just the television is done and the sofa's done.
Tell me
It's a
about the
table.
sofa. What sort of
So
sofa you got?
it's not like a sofa. It's not like a multicolored. It's just like this, not brown, but it's kind of blackish, really, really, really dark brown.
And what sort of size is the sofa?
It's like this, but like if you join that chair to the sofa,
Yeah.
so if it's like that, and you add a chair just here,
So
like it's joined.
So it's longer, is it?
Yes, yes.
And what about, and then, okay.
So it's a long sofa, it's like that, like this.
And what shape is it, the sofa?
So it's like this. So you got it's like that, the sofa, like that.
Okay, like an L shape.
Yes, like that.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's got a bigger sofa than this. It's like a blacky colour.
Yes,
It's in an L
really,
shape.
really dark brown. But
Okay.
like much darker.
And where does he keep the baby skulls?
The baby skulls in his house, yes.
Whereabouts?
So then at the front, where the dining room, there's this big wardrobe,
Yeah.
and he just keeps maybe spare clothes or anything like that. Like
Yeah.
maybe like if there's like maybe plates, bowls, anything like that.
Yeah.
He just keeps it there. But it's not like the wardrobe is just like the skulls right in the wardrobe.
Yeah.
You can see it, like you open the door and you can see it.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's
No.
top secret in there.
Go on, tell me how to find
Yes.
it.
So then after it's just maybe this, because sometimes he keeps spare clothes, as I said.
Yeah.
So you've got a hanger and you've got just clothes, the coats or anything like that. There. And then after you have to apart the clothes, and there's a little door there, but it's like it looks camouflaged. You
How
can't
do you
really
mean?
see it.
So how would I be able to find it, the door?
So here's the clothes, but you can't see the door because the clothes are at the front of it.
Yeah.
It's all covered like that.
Yeah.
But you have to part the clothes, and after you can, it's like it looks like just like a normal wall.
Yeah.
But it's not a normal wall. It got a little handle there.
Is there?
Yes.
And what does this handle look like? How could I find it?
It's like not like a handle like that, but it's still wooden. It's like a bendy one,
Okay.
How to say like that.
Okay. And when I open that door, what
Yes.
do I
So
find?
then inside, you have to go downstairs to underground.
It goes
so-
underground.
Yes.
And what's in there underground?
So then we go underground, and after there's this little hallway, and on the right there's this door, and then there's this big, enormous secret room.
And what's in the secret room?
In the secret room, there's cupboards everywhere. Looks like everywhere. But then they do sex there too,
How do you know they do sex there?
because they took me there to do sex.
Who took you there?
My father, Mr. Hollings took me.
So you're who?
My father.
Your father. Sorry. Okay. Do you call him father or papa?
Papa.
Is it papa. So papa's taking you down there. And what did you do there?
So it's just like, so after you do sex there, so
What
They
does
have
sex
plas-
mean?
so like they have they buy plastic willies.
Right. Okay.
Yes, and then they strap it on, but they make sure it hurt. They want plastic willies. They don't want to use the real willies.
Why not?
Because it just doesn't hurt. They want to make sure it hurts.
Okay. So who's they? So Papa and who else?
Mr. Hollings, headmistress.
Okay, so
all
Papa,
the teachers.
Mr. Hollings, the headmistress.
Yes, Miss Marden, Mr. Fanoni, Mr. Gorge.
Okay. So who done it when you went to that house? Who was there?
So all the staff.
All the staff.
All the the parents of all the children. They all know about it.
Okay.
They do it.
Okay. And so you've got in there.
Yes.
And who's used the plastic willies?
All of them. All of them.
And where do they keep the plastic willies?
They keep them in the cupboards. They got, as I said, they've got cupboards around.
Okay.
So they've got like maybe 2 cupboards there and 2 cupboards there. They've got cupboards around, around the room.
Okay. So I want to just make sure I get this absolutely correct. So
and they've got exits. So because they know that because they do not trust me and Gabriel.
Yeah.
That because they say that not to tell anyone about
this. Okay.
But they do not trust us.
No, why not?
Because they can see them because they when they tell us not to tell about this anything, they look so curious. It looks like they're not trust. They don't trust us.
Okay. So
stop it right there, guys. Again, we're watching extended, interview from Elisa. Wow. I mean, what do you say about that? The part that we just saw where she is judging the adults. She's like, I can tell when they talk to us that they don't trust us by the look on their face, by their body language, when they're telling us not to tell anybody about this place. So she gives detail about tattoos on their private parts. She gives detail about the sex toys, about the underground facility, that's at Mr. Hollings' house, which is in like a residential neighborhood. It makes sense that you would have, why didn't Ella, when she was coaching these kids to make up this story, why didn't she say, just tell them that they did it in the living room. They abused you in the living room. That's a lot less complicated. You're going to have to remember too much stuff and make up too much stuff to tell them all this crazy, story about a stairs behind a wardrobe. And it's the same thing, Vic, that we've been saying this whole show.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if she's going to continue because where we stopped, but it sounded like she was saying there was like a sneak exit down there so they don't get stuck down there. And then she was like, because they don't trust us. So in other words, someone might raid us because we might tell, because I can tell that they know we're suspicious. So I don't know if that's where she was going or if she goes back to that or if the subject has changed. Sense. But it sounds to me like she was saying, and it's interesting because he started to ask a question and she got louder. She interrupted and she got louder. She was determined to get it out. And she said, there's also an exit down there. And so it's almost like they have this plan B if there's a raid. And so I don't know if she goes on with that, but I thought that was really fascinating. And that whole piece, I haven't seen this particular piece of it where she's saying that they're suspicious of her and Gabriel, like where they know that, hey, if we're going to get busted, it's going to be these two. And they were right. They were right to instinctively think that because they were the two that eventually leaked it out and blew the cover.
I think in other parts of the interviews, the reason why Elisa and Gabriel were loose ends because the mother and the father were not in on it. Ella was not in on this. So Ricky didn't have complete control over the children, right?
Sure.
Unlike the other parents, where both the parents were in on it, so there was no concern about anybody finding out. Of course, it's the same old thing. Hey, we're gonna cut this baby's head off in front of you. If you tell anybody this is what's going to happen to you, okay, we're going to do this to you. So, yeah, well, yeah, let's just watch another minute of this, and then I want to show you guys some stuff. So,
I'll go there. You have to pause outside. Then you go to the door,
Yes.
dark door.
Yes.
You go into a corridor.
Yes.
It's got a little carpet by the door, wooden floor, very dark like this door.
Yes.
On the sides of the, you show me
there's
there.
a living room at the front. There's a kitchen, and then there's
There's a little table.
Yes.
Then you go into the living room.
Yes.
It's got a large sofa.
Yes.
Which is in an L shape.
Yes.
Big Samsung telly on a large black shelf thing you described. You said in the dining room area, it's got a wardrobe.
Yes.
Then
and it's all just stuffed in spare clothes,
if
as
you
I said.
all stuffed with spare clothes, but if you part it, you can find a little door.
Yes, but you can't
cellar.
really see it because it's kind of camouflaged.
It's camouflaged.
No, yes, it looks a
but
bit
there's
camouflaged.
a little wooden handle.
Yes.
You can open that.
Yes. But
Go
they've got
down.
exits. The thing is that they've got exits there because they can run out the house too.
Right, okay. But you go down into this, it takes you into a basement.
Yes.
And then in there's loads of cupboards.
Yes, loads of cupboards and there's
in there,
yes.
Your dad, so Papa, Mr. Hollings, some other members of staff
Yes.
have then had sex with you using plastic willies.
Yes, and then they touch each other.
Okay.
And as I said, they sell me and my brother for £50 each every single day.
To who?
To any people who any people who would do who are the kind of people who will actually do sex to who can't come to school, who are busy or anything like that, but then they keep me and Gabriel to do sex to whilst they got their equipment. So they got the plastic willies, and then they do it, and then after maybe for 2 hours, maybe 1 hour, during school hours.
Okay, so what is sex?
Yes.
We haven't said what sex is. What is it?
So sex. So they touch each. So they touch each other on a private.
Right.
And as I said, I did tell you about this, but they got this big plastic stick.
Right.
Yes, not plastic, but wooden.
Yeah.
Yes, and then they put it between our legs, and they hit it right between us, but like in between our legs.
So they hit you with a wooden stick between your legs.
Yes.
And what's that? Is that sex? Is it?
No. But that's how they hurt us. But the real sex is like they get plastic willies. They stick it in our bum. That's what kind of sex they do.
And what is your bum?
So they stick in the plastic willy in our bum, where the poo comes out.
Okay, so they put a plastic willy in the bum where the poo comes out. Okay.
Yes.
And anywhere else?
Yes, in our front private.
Okay.
And then
you say our front private. Who are you talking about?
No. So if we say it hurts, or if we cry or make a sound, they'll give us spoon licks. So they'll get a spoon.
Spoon licks?
Yes.
What does that mean?
So you get spoons, and then they hit us on the head.
Okay.
That's why whenever we come back to our mom, she always says, she doesn't say, but that's why we always got bumps on our heads.
Okay.
But she doesn't say, why do you have bumps on your head? She doesn't say that.
Do you know how to get to Mr. Hollings' house, do you?
Me from our school.
From your school, do you?
A bit. I know some of the way.
Where if we took you where would you be able to find where his house is?
So I don't remember.
Okay, so that's enough. I mean, how much more footage? There's a ton more footage. How much more footage does anybody need to see to know that they're telling the truth? She's sitting there begging people to believe her, basically. And shame on DC Steve Martin. Shame on him. He was the man in the room. Shame on him. I guess he was complicit. Now, I question that because when he's asking the questions and you hear the tone of his voice, it seems, Vicky, that he's trying to find the truth out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, don't forget about John Wedger. Okay. John Wedger, who we know, who is a guy over that worked for Scotland Yard, police officer over there. He got so good at his job that they were like catching pedophiles that they had to stop him. Okay. They're like, okay, you're getting too close. You're getting to some of the wrong pedophiles. We want you to find the people, the common citizen, not the bankers, not the elite, not the, the politicians. Don't mess with those ones. Right. So, anyway, I just I don't know what else we got to play to convince people, and I could care less if people don't believe that, then you've got your own problems, right?
So I'm curious, Tom, if a lot of people in the UK believe the hype that this didn't happen, are these just the people reading the headlines, just the people that watch the news? Like, I cannot believe that people in the UK, if they saw that footage, would believe the media.
Yeah, you're not allowed to say the name Elisa and Gabriel. You're not allowed to show that footage in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that footage is really non-existent over there. People try to break it out, but those channels, anybody that shows those videos, they're blocked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the UK.
Yeah.
So, folks, we're really not getting very deep tonight. Okay, I wanted you guys to see the video evidence of the testimonies because they're so compelling. Here is a little girl that has been traumatized. She's been abused. She's been raped, and her brother has been. And when you hear we haven't even got into the Gabriel interviews, okay? We could look at those and we could just see just his tortured little expressions. I mean, what these kids have been through. And Vic, I don't want to make light of what they've been through, but keep in mind, okay, that I hope people understand why I'm bringing this up, because it's relevant. Children in America, not only in America, but around the world, but in America, are having their genitals cut off. Another form of Satanism. You know what I'm saying? They're being sexualized in a different way, and they are going through these transformations and being abused, and it's happening in hospitals. Talk about satanic. So I'm not going to go down that road right now, but as horrific as the things that have happened to Elisa and Gabriel, at least those things didn't happen. And I'm not making light of what happened to them, but children in this country are being abused in a horrific way. And I just want to make the comparison and the parallel there. Vic, these kids, as I mentioned earlier, they were taken from their mom. They were put, they were in foster custody. They were put somewhere, safe housing somewhere. And then a week later, they were brought back and they recanted. Okay. And when you listen to the recants, it's kind of like, wow. It's not as convincing, but they say some things that are kind of like, it makes it sound like they made it up, if that's all you heard. Okay. Now, recently there's a podcast that's come out, and the podcast, lifts up the people that protected the pedophiles, that protected those abusers and those Satanists. They lift them up as heroes. Pretty sick. And we talk about that. We'll talk about that tomorrow night. But so the children recanted, okay? And the children were taken away from their mother and their father and put into some kind of foster care, okay? Well, Ella was in touch with the foster mother, and there were letters written after the recant. So I want to bring up a couple of those right now, and we have this these letters, and I got my glasses on here. I'm going to try to read this. Okay, so listen to this. This is after Elisa and Gabriel said that it didn't happen to them. Okay, they said we made it up, it didn't happen. That their mom said if we didn't make this up, we would be in trouble. And the mother obviously took a lie detector test and passed. So that was all they needed. Okay, it was a very short interview. Vic, those recants, those interviews should have been just as long. Okay. But they didn't want to make them just as long because it would incriminate. You know what I'm saying? The truth would come out. So listen to what this letter here. It says, whilst out shopping, we were in the shop called Savers, and I looked this up. This is a real shop in the UK. When Elisa and Gabriel was pointing and whispering, they looked over at the shelf where there was some KY jelly and Vaseline. Elisa said, "Look, that's the cream used on our bottoms." And Gabriel said, "Oh, yes. Can you buy it in the shops?" They said, then they both stopped talking. So they were out in the store and they recognized the lube, the KY lube used for sex. And they mentioned it. Why would a foster parent make that story up and write a letter back to Ella? Okay. So there's another piece of evidence. After they recanted, they then were caught talking about, they recognized the KY jelly. Okay. So guys, when you look up this case, if you're new to this case, one of the things you'll find is that new podcast out there saying that the whole thing was a hoax. Okay. And that the mother made it up to get custody. It's not true. Okay. So Ella's just recently come out in the last couple of months, and she's made a video, and she's still fighting for justice for her kids. Okay. So let's take a look at another one of these letters here. And it says also, Alicia also said that, Dad sometimes has them on a Saturday for most of the day, and they go to his house or they go around to his friends. She said, Daddy gets a plastic willy and sticks it and puts it in their bottoms, and it really hurts. Both children confirm this. He's allowed because he is daddy, and it's their secret. If they tell anyone, their daddy said both children will go to jail. When they go to his friend's house, the friends are also allowed to do it to them. So after the recanting, after they said it didn't happen, they're at the foster house and they're still talking about what didn't happen. Okay. So is there another one? I don't know if there's another one or not. Or was there only two?
There's three.
Okay.
And there's three.
Okay. So I'll read this last one. It says, Elisa said when she goes to the church, Daddy and Mr. Hollings are there. Mr. Hollings told her, come here and pull your knickers down and bend over and puts cream on her bottom and gives her a long, chewy sweet called Refresher. It's really nice. And Mr. Hollings says, suck that sweet and chew it. If it hurts, bite hard on the chewy sweet, and then it's not painful. I don't want to talk about this, folks, but nobody else will do it. We're the outcast among outcasts because we do and we expose what nobody else will. I told Russ, I said, I don't want to do this. And he said, Tom, if we don't do it, who will? They don't have anybody. I don't know what anybody else is called to, but do something. Do something. Fight abortion, fight trafficking, fight the sexualization of children. I'm not saying you got to do what we do. Write a book on sleep paralysis. That's a great idea. Well, don't do that. We already got one. But You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I mean, there's work to be done out there. Folks, we are going to continue to trailblaze ahead and expose this stuff. We're not done talking about this case. We can't be. We can't be done talking about it, okay? We're going to do more by God's grace than we ever have before, and we're going to keep pushing, and we're going to keep exposing, and we're going to keep bringing the content. So, folks, if you want to support us, pray for us. If you want to support us financially, you can do that by going to the website. There's a tab on there. Thank you for that. We appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts. It helps us to pay for the show, that we put on here. It costs money to pay for the StreamYard and things like this, and just helps us take care of stuff. And it helps us get to the conferences and things like that. We're going to keep talking about this. We're not going to shut up, and we're going to go even more. And by God's grace, by the strengthening of the Spirit of God, we're going to fight. We're not going to lose, period. It's impossible for us to lose. If we go with God, we can't go wrong. Okay. There's no way that these people are going to get away with these things, guys. They
No
can't.
way. No
They
way.
can't. So,
And I just kind of want to suggest to everybody too who's still in the chat or whoever watches this later in the archives. This is the first thing I'm going to do when we get done. I literally feel, Tom, like I'm wearing a 1,000-pound helmet right now. Like I feel the weight of all this. I'm so sapped of energy. It's hard to even talk. Like the weight of this is just on me. And so when you click off, when this ends, don't do anything until you've prayed and ask the Spirit of God to lift this oppression off of your shoulders and anything that might be clinging to you. Now, that doesn't mean we stick our head in the sand and we ignore everything that we heard and we don't do anything, but there's a difference. There's a cleansing that needs to happen where we pray for ourselves before we go to bed, and we ask that nothing comes into our sleep or that we don't wake up tomorrow with an oppression. We need to be strong to fight this fight. And there is a way of weeping with those who weep, but not taking so much of the weight upon ourselves that we are impotent to fight. And so just say some cleansing prayers after this, maybe sing a worship song or listen to a worship song, and just say a prayer for these two kids, for Elisa and Gabriel, for Ella. Say a prayer for Ricky Dearman. If anybody needs prayer, it's this guy. And just break the yoke of anything that the enemy would want to do. He might plant a seed in your head after this where you're like, no, this can't be true. That's ridiculous. You know what? I'm never going to listen to Through the Black anymore. They've crossed the line now. This is ridiculous. Just pray, test the spirits to see whether they're from God. You don't have to believe anything that we say. Test the spirits to see whether they're from God. And now that you're accountable for this information, doesn't mean you have to go out there and, get on a plane and fly out to Hampstead, but maybe it means that you pray for SRA victims once a week, or it can be something simple, but we're now accountable for this information. We now know this. We're now accountable for it. The blood is on our hands, so to speak, if we walk away. And so just spend a little time in sober-minded, vigilant prayer after this show, please.
guys, we've talked about a lot of things tonight, and we really haven't touched on the cover-up. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow night, how the cover-up was exposed. But after all of this stuff, came out, and the mother, they tried to discredit her, and the kids went back with the father, and all of this crazy stuff happened. The powers that be, whoever they are, they put out a very sophisticated cover-up and a very sophisticated attack against anybody who talks about this case. If you were around a few years ago, you saw it happen. It's happened to us 4 years ago. because we came out very boldly talking about this case. Okay, there was an organization called Hampstead, and they were the ones that were attacking us and calling us names. And as compelling as what we saw tonight, all of that evidence, okay, that we saw, and just the genuine testimony of these children, as compelling as that is, there were times that the attacks on me became more compelling, and that made it more real. I knew that what was being covered up was real because of the lies that were put against me and the attacks against my family. Okay. I went through that. Okay. Our guest tomorrow night went through that. Her name is Hope Girl, and she's going to talk about that. And you're going to, if you like tonight's show, you're going to be blown away by what we talk about tomorrow night, because you're going to see how this group, this network, was exposed, okay, for who they really are. All right. There was a cast of characters. We don't know all of them, but the main one was a person by the name of Karen Irving, and she worked with her husband, Mitchell Beer, and they had a business where they did exactly what they did. They came after us, okay, and they tried to discredit us. They tried to do anything they can. They tried to upset us in every way. And Through the Black was one of the few groups that stayed around, and we put up with their attacks and their silliness. So we're going to hear not so much about the Hampstead group, but the exposure of the Hampstead group. Okay. So tune in tomorrow night, guys. But we usually don't go this long, but I had a feeling that we were going to go long tonight because there's so much, there's just so much stuff that we had to cover. And I can feel, I got pain in the back of my throat, guys, tonight. So, hey, we're going to be back tomorrow night. Thank you, guys. We love you and appreciate you. See you later. Hey friends, how are you doing today? Tom Dunn here, and I want to ask you to save a date. The weekend of April 1st and 2nd, 2023, Through the Black is doing our very first conference. It's called Out of the Darkness Spiritual Warfare Conference. And we want to make it the biggest spiritual warfare conference that's ever been done. And we want to let you guys know way ahead of time, about 6 months out, about this. We're going to be releasing more information about it in the weeks and months. The early registration is the week of November 20th, 21st, something like that. So keep an eye out for that, and we would love to see you in Ohio, in the Dayton, Ohio area, April 1st and 2nd, 2023 for the Out of the Darkness Conference.